Hi guys! Today I'm doing just a quick series review on the Losing It series by Cora Carmack. I have talked about it several times in my videos and I feel like besides they're so good, I really enjoyed them, I love them, they're so good. I feel like I haven't really said very much else about them, so I just thought I would talk a little bit more about them in this video. This series is more of a companion trilogy. There are 3 main books, all of which follow different main characters, but they are in the same group of friends, so you meet the characters from the second and third book in the first book. So the books in the series are Losing It, Faking It, and Finding It. After Losing It, there is a novella called Keeping Her and a short story called Inking Him, and after Finding It, there is a novella called Seeking Her. So I have read all of them. I have not read any of Cora Carmack's other books, but I would really like to. For now, I'm just going to do a review on these 3. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, so if you have not read the books yet, or if you've only read 1 or 2 of the books, that is fine because I'm not going to spoil you in this video. The first book, Losing It, follows a girl named Bliss, who is a senior in college, and she is kind of just trying to figure out what she wants to do after school, and she is actually a virgin. And the very start of the book is actually when she tells her best friend Kelsey, and so Kelsey takes it upon herself to help Bliss lose her virginity, so she takes her out to a bar where Bliss meets this really hot guy, and she takes him home, and everything's going great, and before the deed can happen, some awkwardness ensues and she sends him home, only to find out that the next morning when she walks into her first class of the day, her professor is the man she kicked out of bed the night before. So this is a very interesting story, very lighthearted, very fun. I read this book in one day, and that doesn't happen very often for me no matter how short the book is. And it was nice because I read this on a day that my sister was in the hospital with very bad dehydration, so I was already feeling very crummy and sad, and this book totally cheered me up. This book is different than the others in that it's a little bit more lighthearted. As I said in a previous video, I don't like to use fluff to describe a book because I feel like that has kind of a negative connotation to it. When you hear fluff, you think, oh, that book's meaningless, it's just crap. But that's not what I mean. I just mean it's more upbeat and positive, and it's going to make you smile, it's going to make you laugh. So that's kind of what I mean by this, and there's not as much darkness to it. That being said, the characters definitely have their baggage, but it's not super dark as far as the underlying tone of the story and kind of the things that have happened to them in their past. Something I really enjoyed about this book was the fact that I could really relate to Bliss. I have a problem with stress and anxiety and worrying, and that's kind of how Bliss is. Bliss is super worried about everything. She gets very easily stressed out. Small things give her anxiety, and I feel like there's not a lot of characters like her, and in that way, some of you might pick up this book and find Bliss to be annoying at times. I can see where people would think that, but because I relate so much to her, it was really refreshing for me to see a character that I related to so much, because you feel the frazzledness when you're reading it. This book is only told from her perspective, but you really feel how she's thinking and what's in her head, and that might be really stressful for some people. It was a relief for me to see that a character that I admired and loved had the same kind of problems I had, not just with simple worrying, but with worrying about everything. So I found Bliss to be extremely relatable, at least for me. Some of you might find her annoying, and if that's the case, I really encourage you to keep going with the series because not every character is like Bliss. I found this to be really lighthearted and fun, as I said, so it was really refreshing and a great start to the series. And this is the first new adult book that I ever read, and it got me hooked on new adult. I love new adult. I'm on my 2nd new adult series now, and I'm loving that one as well. This one really got me hooked, so I would recommend this if you're looking to try some new adult. The difference between young adult and new adult can be pretty vast, but this is not such a huge jump from young adult to new adult. There's a little bit more detailed sexual content, more swearing, but not quite as much as adult, and not quite as much as some new adult that I have read. So this would be a really great book if you are looking to try some new adult, or if you are going into your senior year of college or have just graduated from college. This would be great because the characters are in the exact same boat as you are. So yeah. I'm not going to talk about the novellas because I just feel like I talked enough about them in my June wrap-up that I feel like you can kind of get a good handle on how I feel about them. I will link my June wrap-up in the description box below, so if you're curious to see how I felt about them, you can watch that video and see my feelings on those books. The second book in the series is Faking It. I know some people read this one last and Finding It next, but I read them this way because this is the one Goodreads said was next, so I read this one next. Finding It and Faking It don't spoil each other. Well, yeah, Finding It and Faking It don't spoil each other, I don't think so. But I would definitely recommend reading this one first just because that's how I did it. I don't know. I really have no reason behind it. I just would read this one first just in case the other one spoils you and I don't remember. So this book follows one of Bliss's best friends from the first book. His name is Cade, and this one is told, as I said, from a dual perspective. It is told from the perspective of Cade and another character, Max. At the very start of this book, we meet Max, and she is a little out there. She has dyed hair, she has tattoos, she's in a band, she didn't finish college, and she's got a pretty dark past. To top it all off, she has a boyfriend that is less than ideal for her. We start the book off with her parents calling her, saying that they are in town and want to meet her boyfriend, and she walks into a coffee shop and sees Cade. They strike up this deal where Cade is going to pretend to be Max's boyfriend while her parents are in town, and from there, obviously, it's a romance novel. You know that feelings may start to develop, but Cade has been hurt in the past, and Max is still healing from things that have happened in her past, so obviously it's not an easy road for them. This one was pretty dark and pretty emotional, and I loved it. It had a much darker tone than the last one. It was not quite as carefree and fun, but I have to say I can't tell if I liked this one or Losing It better. I liked them both the same but in different ways. I couldn't relate to the characters as much in this one, but I still loved them and I was rooting for them, and this is just a really great book, and probably if you didn't like Losing It, then you will love this one, so I definitely recommend trying this one if you are not really loving Losing It. The story is just very compelling, and it doesn't wrap up until the last couple pages, so it's not one of those that everything gets tied up in a nice little knot immediately. The characters really have to work for it, so this was really good. I'm hesitant to say too much because I don't want to spoil you guys. This is obviously just as good as the other one. I rated all three of these books 5 stars, so obviously you know that I love them. Let me stop rambling. The last book is Finding It, and this follows Bliss's best friend Kelsey from the first book, the one who tried to get Bliss to lose her virginity in the first chapter of the book. Kelsey is traveling around Europe, and she is partying it up and enjoying her time there. So Kelsey is really just living it up in Europe, traveling around, ignoring her father's phone calls when he does call, ignoring calls from her father's secretary, trying to check up on her and make sure that she's not getting into any trouble. She meets this boy randomly at a club one night after a very awkward encounter. She is super drawn to him because of the fact that he seems to be interested in her but is kind of always keeping her at arm's length. Then after a super scary evening, he decides he wants to show her how to live without partying every night, and they go traveling together, and along the way some secrets come out. You find out things about Kelsey that you would have never guessed just reading about her in the first book. She's got baggage just like everybody else, only her baggage is just as dark, if not possibly darker, as the baggage in the second book. I really enjoyed this one because even though the second book was darker than the first, I would say this had an even darker tone than both, and it was very different from the first 2 books in that way. And not everything is revealed right off the bat, so as you're reading, you are just dying to know things, and you don't find them out until close to the end, and then everything just comes crashing down. It's very compelling in that there's so many secrets that once you think you found everything out, there's still something else, and it just hits you. And there's so many twists and turns in this book. I just loved reading about the travels and uncovering a little bit more of each of the 2 characters in this book. This was my favorite of the group, which is pretty interesting because I was not super interested in reading this book. I almost didn't because Kelsey didn't really interest me in the first book. She kind of annoyed me a little bit because she just seemed too pushy, and that whole idea of somebody who has no problems and just wants to party all the time and has no worries, it was very different from Bliss, so I wasn't super interested in her or her story, so I didn't really want to read this one. It ended up being my favorite. And the male lead in this book is my favorite of all of the male leads in the series, so obviously I loved this one. And you just really come to love Kelsey a lot more in this book because you see that she's not just some ditzy, let's party all the time girl. You see that there's actually a lot more to her than you think. As I said before, I rated each of these books 5 stars, and I rated all of the novellas 4 stars, only because the novellas were much shorter, and as I've said in a couple other videos, I feel weird rating novellas 5 stars when they're so short unless I was really in love with them and the stories were meaty enough for me to feel like they deserved 5 stars. So most novellas that I loved, I rate 4 stars unless they were like blow me away amazing. The ages of the main characters in each book is 22, 23-ish, and the oldest one of the characters is 27, so it's kind of the middle spectrum of new adult. I have read new adult where the characters are 19, so these are just a little bit older than that, but not quite as old as I know new adult can be. I think that's everything. If there's anything that I'm forgetting, I will leave a little text box, or I'll put it in the description, or I'll put an annotation or something. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have read these and loved them as well. Let me know in the comments if you read them and didn't like them, because we're all allowed to have different tastes. I definitely recommend that you guys pick these up. Obviously, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love them and you're probably getting sick of hearing about them. Hopefully this will be the last. If you pick them up because of one of my videos and you like them, please let me know in the comments. I would love to chat with you guys. Just please no spoilers in the comments, just in case people haven't read them and are reading the comments. But definitely leave your non-spoiler thoughts in the comments as well, so that everybody can get more than one perspective on the books. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye everyone!